Thank you for joining me on TMI Tuesday. I did say we'll be having a couple of issues to really discuss on, which centers on Edo State House of Assembly proclamation controversy, and discussing this very sensitive topic with me, starting from my immediate, or let me say, my extreme left. I have one-time Executive Director of Public Affairs and Social Media under the government of Governor Adams Oshomole, former Governor Adams Oshomole, and he was also former Executive or Deputy Director in charge of Communications, Media and Publicity of Godwin Obaseki Campaign Organization. And currently he is the Chairman Heritage Farmers Edo State, and he is an APC chieftain, Prince Gregory Ogiogwa. It's quite a long list on that.
I was surprised myself. I didn't know who you were describing again. Thank you very much.
All right.
Lovely to be here. Good morning, Edo people.
And so, discussing with me, I also have past NBA Chairman, Benin Branch, and also currently is a member of the National Executive Committee and a custodian of the law at that, and is no one else but Eddie Asenogwa. Thanks for coming.
Thank
Eddie.
you very much, and good morning, listeners.
I choose to start with you, Eddie, looking at the issues we have concerning the recent judgment delivered in the Federal High Court, Port Harcourt, under the leadership of Kolawole Omotosho, where he dismissed the petition against the Edo State proclamation of the House of Assembly. And looking at that judgment, some have said that it is coming at a time where issues about going against it is still very, very concrete. So what do you have to say about the judgment in this light?
Well, once a judgment of court is pronounced, it is the judgment of the court, and that remains the position of the law until a superior court sets it aside. Until it is set aside, it remains the law, and everybody must accept it. If you are aggrieved by it, what you are expected to do is to also take the normal channel prescribed by law, which is to appeal it. If you feel aggrieved by it, you appeal it, and if you succeed on appeal, the superior court says, oh, well, that judgment was wrong, or the judge was wrong, and then they come up with their own decision. And that also now becomes the position until there is a subsequent appeal. And so the matter remains like that, either until it gets to the Supreme Court, or if it is not appealed. That's the position. So having said that, for me, I think that judgment, to my mind, is the correct law interpretation of the law. We have said that the issue of proclamation is final, and it is again only the court that can set it aside. It is not left to our individual idiosyncrasies. It's a serious issue. What makes it very important? I have heard some persons say, oh, what's there? Issue another one. It's not as simple and as straightforward as that. First, the tenure of the House begins to count from the very first day of that proclamation. And so, if a particular letter has been issued, based on that letter, steps have been taken, and the House has been inaugurated. That is the first day of the sitting of the House. And it is from that day that you count the 4 years tenure that was prescribed by that House by the Constitution. Assuming now, for instance, let us say, of course, the court have said you cannot issue a second proclamation, which I agree with. Assuming the governor says, oh, I want to issue another one. When will the tenure of the House now start and end? Let us also look at another instance. For instance, people just say, oh, just issue, there's nothing there. You will not know the kind of damage that that could do if, for instance, a governor issues a proclamation, the House is inaugurated, a speaker emerges on that day that he doesn't want. He issues another proclamation letter until he gets the speaker that he wants. So the issue of issuing a proclamation letter is not as simple and as straightforward as people are making it look.
But let's look at the grip on the grounds of the members-elect, where they said that the proclamation was done in an unholy hour, and they were not solely invited.
Good. Now, I'll take the issues seriously. First, on the issue of the hour, I have canvassed, and I will keep canvassing, that the time alone, the time simpliciter, is not enough to set it aside. That it happened at 9:30, that it happened at 12 midnight, that it happened at 11 a.m., that it happened at 1 p.m. is not enough in itself.
But we have official hours.
No! For instance, I will give you 2 examples. On Sunday here, the Election Petitions Tribunal, sitting in Benin, sat and gave judgment. Sunday morning. Is Sunday a working day? Is it an official hour? The Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, when they were giving this election, presidential election petition, they sat at 6. Are we going to appeal it because, they extended, in fact, by the time they pronounced the relevant part of that judgment, it was already about 6 p.m. So can we say, everything you did after 4 p.m. is null and void, and therefore appeal that judgment on that ground? So the issue of timing in law in itself does not mean that, because you did it at a particular time, therefore it is wrong. No, it's not.
Okay.
And if you even look at the Bauchi example, they've done inauguration 7 p.m. different times. It is not the time that makes it valid or otherwise. That's my position, and that is the position of the law.
Okay, let's get something straight about the position of the law also, and the number of times that a proclamation can be made.
Yes.
Basically, the law is silent on that.
The law is not silent. The law is not silent. The law says, strictly speaking, says that it shall be done immediately upon the governor is sworn in. But Edo State's position becomes peculiar because as at the time they did their election, the governorship election was not done. And so when you want to interpret immediately after the governor is sworn in, if we want to even extend it, Obaseki was not just sworn in. Do you understand? So, but we must give interpretation to our laws to ensure that the intendment of the legislators, of the makers of the law, the drafters, are implemented. Okay. So when the governor says, we now look at the timing, because why were they clamoring? The tenure of the last house had expired. And it is the law that there should be no vacuum. There must be continuity. And so the governor didn't say, let me wait till when I'm sworn in because I'm not just sworn in. So the constitution says, I can only issue a proclamation immediately after I'm sworn in. But because that tenure, the tenure of that former house had expired, it became incumbent.
Okay, I'll come back to
issue that proclamation.
I'll come back to you. Now, let's get your viewpoint on this, Prince Greg, because there's this impression that this fight or this battle, like some call it, is being more political than is being a legal one. Because it's one thing to have this done legally, it's another to also battle with that of the political aspect. But what do you take on this two sides of the coin?
You see, I'm pretty glad to be here again this morning to say, I told you so. Because if you remember, all the times we've had this conversation over the last couple of weeks, months, I always stated that it was a legal matter. It was not a political or emotional thing, like you will find some people, including our national chairman, trying to go into.
But some are saying that it's more political than it's been legal.
It doesn't matter. Politics is subject to the constitution, to the law of the land. It is the constitution that prescribes what form of politics, you know, the powers and the duties and functions of political parties and institutions of a democratic government. So political parties are organs within democratic governance, and so they must comply with the constitution. So whether you think that it does not conform with political convention or with general political wisdom or with your wishes and your idiosyncrasies, it doesn't matter. Your emotions, your sentiments don't matter. What matters is the ground norm upon which everything else is based, including the composition of political parties. And that is the constitution. So when you see people at the highest level, for example, at the National Working Committee of the APC, saying that something that the governor, a constitutionally mandated governor, that what he did was illegal, and they are not lawyers, they are not judges, they are not in any way a court of competent jurisdiction, to make a pronouncement that something that somebody else has done is illegal is in itself ludicrous. It's illegal. It's ridiculous. So you start to wonder, what is the plot? What is the underlying plot behind the National Working Committee, the Senate, and the House of Rep doing such profound acts of illegality and on constitutionality. How can we get that far? How can we, for example, bend the rule of law and order, you know, constitutionality, constitutional democracy? How can we go so far away from it because of partisan sentiment or because of power grab? That's what we're talking about. We're not, you know, this is not, when you say, oh, it's a political thing. What is political? We are a country of law and order. At least that is what we're aspiring to be. We're a party that's supposed to have integrity. We're a party of transparency. That's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be a progressive party. But what you're seeing is a certain kind of conservatism that is even worse than the conservative parties that we call opposition.
Okay.
That's what we're beginning to see.
All right.
So,
thank you. I'll come back to you because I'll come back to you, Eddie, but there is this, like the custodian of the law, as we call you people. There is a divergent opinion that we will be bringing on the screen of one of the lawyers in Edo State that spoke on this matter. And after that view, we will be expanding the frontiers of this discussion. Stay with me.
After the ruling of the Federal High Court sitting in Port Harcourt, the terms of discourse in different fora changed, with both parties to the ongoing tussle at the Edo State House of Assembly viewing the judgment in different ways. Against this backdrop, some lawyers attempted to analyze the judgment and how it affects the 12 members elect who are yet to be sworn in. Some of the lawyers said the ruling has put the 12 members elect in a dilemma, as it is in their interest to present themselves for inauguration and work with the others. Otherwise, they are likely to face a recall process. According to them, the High Court ruling in Port Harcourt, which states among other things that the governor cannot issue another proclamation letter, said it has now been established that the continuous absence of the 12 members elect be described as illegal.
The implication of this whole scenario is that our brothers who are hibernating in different parts of the country and refusing to present themselves for inauguration are acting, maliciously, without due respect and regard to those who elected them into office. With a vision of time, that seat that they ought to occupy will be declared vacant, and a fresh election will be conducted.
It has not given legal backing to some of us who are saying that Okiye election and the speaker was proper. A time will come, the constituency that elected them, they will not be happy. They have the right to record them if they refuse to come back to the house. They have the right to appeal, to call for appeal, Port Harcourt, and that will take time because we have to compile record. And even if they win and they come appeal, Okiye will also go to speak out. So their tenure will have ended.
Others are, however, of the view that the ruling has nothing to do with the 12 members elect, which according to them did not say whether or not the inauguration was valid as it is today. Citing the constitution, they said though the state governor cannot issue another proclamation, it does not validate the inauguration of the Edo State House of Assembly.
If the governor issued the proclamation 9:30 in the night, it's of no moment. It's transmitted to the clerk. But should the clerk now inaugurate a house by 9:30 in the night? I don't think that is the thinking of the constitution. Whether the house was validly inaugurated, no report has been made on that by any of the media houses, that the court went further to say that the House of Assembly was validly inaugurated. I have not heard that. In my understanding of the constitution, does not envisage a situation where certain persons will only be informed and inaugurated while the others are kept out.
From the submission of all the legal practitioners, the public will continue to keep their fingers crossed and see how the crisis will eventually be resolved. Fosa Uwangwe reporting.
Well, that's it on the reactions over the EDHA proclamation on the news. And while we had that break, we had the opportunity to enjoy the presence of Patriot Patrick Osagie Iholo, and he is a public affairs analyst. Thank you for coming, Patrick.
Thank you, viewers.
And I think we had the opportunity to listen to those who responded on that. And also Awage, also a custodian of the law, as you are, Eddie. I made mention of the members not properly invited, like a way of taking some out. I think that's still a point of grouse.
Well, yes. Firstly, before I speak on that. I wanted to speak on the issue you raised earlier, which was some people think that this is more of a political matter than a legal matter. And he was saying that it's a legal matter. The truth of the matter is this. It's a mix of all of them. All right? It's a mix of all of them. But the important thing is that where there is a conflict between politics and morality on the one hand, and law on the other, the law will prevail. The law will supersede. So when you play your politics and the law is not in line with it, it can be set aside. But when you play your politics, there could be some maneuvering which may not seem to be morally or politically right. But if you cannot fault it in law, it will stand. So on that note, I want to say, whether politics, morality, insofar as it offends the law, it must collapse.
Okay, but again, some have this view that it was a calculated attempt to take some out of
on
it
the issue
on what
of
transpired.
The validity or otherwise of the inauguration. Yes, that remains an issue. But if the court has said, well, because the issue, some of them said, proclamation, because the proclamation was not properly done. There is I keep saying, there's a difference between the proclamation letter and the proper proclamation and inauguration of the House. So I guess the point my learned friend was trying to make was that, on the issue of the inauguration of the House, valid point, the clerk must or ought to, I'm not aware whether he did or he did not do that. That's an issue of fact. So I will not delve into that.
That's an issue of fact.
It's an issue of fact.
That should be available before the court.
Yes, that must be proved. Whether or not he gave notice to all those that were entitled to receive notice. If notice was not given to all those that were entitled to receive notice, then there is a ground for complaint. But I must also add, it is not you that is not entitled to the notice that should complain. I hope you are getting the point. Everybody that ought to be given notice must be given notice. And if you fail to give notice, and there is a further proof that there was a mischievous attempt, then that can be a ground to present before the court.
Okay, so as we can see now, the case is being expanded.
Yes, and it is not for you on your own to sit down and say, because I didn't get notice, then it is invalid. The man can say, I gave you notice. So it becomes an issue of fact to be proved before the court. And once the court is satisfied, more than half or majority of the members were not given notice at all, the court can say, well, we will go ahead and set it aside. Okay. But if the man says, we gave notice, and that's why I said before, it is not the issue of time. The issue of time in itself cannot invalidate it. 12 midnight, 1 a.m. No. If those who are entitled to get notice to a particular meeting don't get the notice, then it's a ground. But I insist, only those who were supposed to get notice can complain of it.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Patrick Osagie-Holo. You are a social media influencer, and with what is going on at present, where some constituencies are not being properly represented as it should be over this controversy of the proclamation. What's your bite on this?
Well, it's simple. The lawyers are meant to twist things. They're professionals. That's their job. With respect to my brother here, right? And
to twist in the right direction.
Whether it's right or wrong, right? If you don't twist it, his service will not be applauded. I mean, we saw what happened in the court between Atiku and Buhari lately, right? Having said that, he disagreed with Prince in 2 issues here, okay? The fact is that we're talking about morality or immorality. Was it done properly? He said it's up to the court to interpret that. As the court give judgment that...
I think where he disagreed with the Prince was in the aspect of what has been mixed with politics.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because the Prince was saying that it was more of legal and not political.
He said that it's more like what you call a double-headed sword. It's political.
It's intertwined.
Yes, it's intertwined together, okay? You can't separate the both from each other, okay? What we are saying is that the court had given their judgment. If they are not pleased, they should appeal it. But my interest is that those who have decided to stay away from the House of Assembly because it was not done properly, That's how they feel, their
According to
opinion,
them.
according to them. We also know that they were voted for, and they were meant to represent the people's interest who voted for them. My issue is that where I commit, perhaps he will be my lawyer tomorrow to represent me, to say, if the 100 days elapse and you are not there to represent the people, I will support the calling for them to be recalled. And that does not justify what the governor did with speculation that some people were kidnapped with their underwear. The issue we'll be having with this country is that the lawyers are ready to twist things to make it justifiable to people, and that is morally wrong.
Okay, I think that's where you have a grasp with Eddie.
Because we are not.
That's where you have a grasp with Eddie.
Because don't forget that don't forget that we have children, and whatever we do, we must guide our children properly. Okay, and that's why you see that morality has been an issue with us in this country.
Thank you. Prince Greg, there are issues building, and some have even said that the governor had a chance to really call the members-elect and dialogue with them, but the chance seemed to be blown. I want your comment in that direction.
No, but I don't understand. What does the governor have to do with dialoguing with members of the House of Assembly? They are the legislature. He is the executive. He heads the executive. They have the legislature. There is a separation of powers, you know, and there's an autonomy of the different arms of government. So there's no reason why the governor should call the members of the House of Assembly and advise them on who to choose as speaker. Because, you see, the basis, the bottom line of the controversy in the House is who are the what's it called, the House officials. Speaker, deputy speaker, leader, minority, you know, and stuff like that. You won't even have a minority leader in the House, in this particular House, because there's no opposition. Now, that is the problem. The people who we elected to go to the House, we didn't elect them to go there to be speaker or deputy speaker or majority leader. We elected them to go there to go and represent us. And just like my brother, the Patriot, has just said, if they are not there, I think it's about another 9 days. If in 9 days they do not submit themselves for inauguration, we will make the move and recall them.
But don't forget the case is still in court.
No. That's what he does not override. He does not
having an explanation on that.
He does not override constitutional provisions, as in terms of how many days in a legislative year that you must sit once the House has been inaugurated. For you to be able to override that particular clause or that particular condition in the Constitution, you have to have proven that that House was not rightfully inaugurated. And you can't do that. Now, my brother made a very, very serious point. You see, in the issue of reproclamation, for you to proclaim a House, it means the House is dissolved, that the House does not exist, it doesn't stand, for you to be able to proclaim it in the first instance. Now, once you have proclaimed the House, it stands. For you to reproclaim it, you have to first dissolve it. The government, there's nowhere in the Constitution where the executive can dissolve the legislature. There's nowhere in the Constitution. The government doesn't have the power to dissolve Parliament. So if you cannot dissolve Parliament, how is he going to now reproclaim it? Are you going to have two parliaments that have been proclaimed? Now, and there's a precedent, because if you remember that in 2015, when Bukola Saraki emerged as the Senate President, the APC wasn't happy. President Buhari wasn't happy. Why did he not reproclaim the House? If it was possible. Now you have a precedent. He could have reproclaimed the House and said, no, I'm not happy with Saraki emerging. And that majority of the members were not even there. Majority of the members were not there at the inauguration and the election of the Senate President and the Deputy Senate President. Why did he not reproclaim it? Because it is impossible. And because it is impossible, it beggars my mind how the National Working Committee, how the National Assembly, how the House of Rep, and you have lawyers. The National Working Committee has a legal advisor. The Senate consists of a lot of lawyers, a senior advocate, same as the House of Rep. Femi Gbajabiamila is a lawyer. For God's sake, what was he thinking about? How can you, in the name of partisan convenience, distort and overthrow the Constitution? You might not agree with what happens, but there's a precedent already. And that precedent was set in 2015. If you couldn't do it then, why do you want to do it now? And why Edo State? Edo State is, if they haven't noticed, what you would call a border state. We're the only APC state in the south, south, and southeast. Do they think that for one reason, that they will come from Abuja and mess with our minds here, we APC people, and that we will stand there and watch them.
Okay, let's look at the aspect of having a forum where these issues will be addressed.
There's no need for a forum.
Like I did ask you that this impression is that there was a chance for a forum that was blown.
There is no need
and,
for
are
a
you saying,
forum.
because there's this word which has a positive connotation, lobbying, that is expected in governance.
You don't lobby against the law.
Are you saying that that shouldn't have taken...
You can't lobby against the law.
You can't lobby against the law. I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you, but he has the floor.
You can't lobby against the law. Once the law has been set in place, you can't lobby against it. If you lobby against the law, what you are doing is that you are contriving to commit an illegality. That's what you're doing. You are conspiring to commit an illegality. What is lobbying when the law is already set? The proclamation has been put in place. The speaker has been chosen. If you don't like it, go get inaugurated, like the people in the house, in Bauchi State House of Assembly. Then go and plot your plot and try and overthrow the speaker. That's all you can do.
Okay, we're talking about the period of days that should be allowed before the constituency can recall their representatives. But are you sure that can hold while the case is still in court, Eddie?
Well, that's an issue. First, I want to say that I do not quite agree with my brother here. I appreciate his sentiment and I appreciate his position. Strictly speaking, he's correct.
But
Strictly speaking, he's correct.
On the ground that, there's separation of powers, the governor should not meddle with the business of the legislature. That's on the surface. But I tell you,
on the ground of the period of days.
Let me now say this. I will come to that.
Yes.
The governor, as the executive governor of Edo State, his primary function is to ensure the peace, orderliness, and good governance of the state.
To bridge the gap.
So, for me, it is not improper, it is not illegal for the governor to say, well, there seems to be an impasse in the legislature. Let me see what I can do. And I will recommend it in the interest of the state. I will recommend it. If the legislators, members elect as they keep calling themselves, will want to listen to the governor, because the governor is the father of everybody. And good enough, they are members of the same political party. So the governor can call them. Gentlemen, what is the problem? What is happening in your own arm of government?
Because there must be a way to resolve it.
Because we are looking for a way to resolve it. Both parties say, no, I must stick to my guns. The other one say, I must stick to... It's not in the interest of the state. So I will encourage the governor, if they are willing to listen. But I agree with him, that meeting cannot be the one that will compromise the position of the law. You get the point? So he can reach out.
At what point can we say a meeting can compromise the position of the law?
For instance, if the members insist that governor, for us to listen to you, you must issue a fresh proclamation. The governor cannot do that. One, we have said the law does not allow it. And two, now there is a judicial pronouncement that forbids him from doing it. So the members elect cannot now at this point be insisting on that. For them to insist on it, the court must set aside that judgment that have said, you cannot issue a second proclamation. Even before the pronouncement of the court, I have said so. To my mind, that is the correct position. And I have given reasons for it. Now, on the issue of recall, the reasons why the constituency can recall their member, it's not because there are many. But on the issue of the time, the Constitution says, if a member of a house absents himself from the meetings of the house for a period exceeding 1/3 of the number of times the house is expected to sit in a year, then his seat shall be declared. In fact, his seat is vacant. He says he shall vacate his seat.
Absolutely.
Now, another section of the law says that the House of Assembly shall sit for a period not less than 181 days in a year.
In a year.
In other words,
but it can be more than, not less than.
Not less than.
But if you now say not less than 181 days,
within 60 days.
which, and you now say the other section of the Constitution says you cannot absent yourself. Okay, there's a rider without a just cause. Without a just cause.
Okay.
You cannot absent
without a just cause.
Without a just cause. In this case, for me, when you say a just cause,
can you say it's a just cause?
No, you cannot say so, because if there is a meeting, I'm supposed to be here. There is an authority that will give you that excuse. You cannot call it a just cause by yourself in yourself.
Okay, but for the very fact that the court is the case is in court.
Now, like
is
I said,
that's
why I said just now. For the record issue, the timing or whether the matter is in court is irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
Absolutely.
It's irrelevant.
Absolutely.
For the record, the members can say, look, oh, we didn't know that this person is like this. We have found him to be unworthy. We elected him. What the Constitution says is that a given percentage of the members who elected him will sign and send it to the INEC. And once INEC verifies it, the man stands record.
Well, I want to even point out something to you. Sorry, barrister.
Yes.
In this particular matter,
keep
that. I'll come back to you. Keep that. I'll come back to you. You have the floor. You have the floor, Patrick. What's your take in this?
My take is that I agree with him because it's neutral.
Yes.
I disagree with Prince because they have faction in APC. All right? And there I mean, it's very clear and glaring that he belongs to the Obaseki faction, not the Shomole faction.
I will just go straight to the point. We don't need to...
Don't tell me what to go through.
Okay.
I'm telling you what is happening.
Okay.
Okay, you hear it clearly. That's why I said I agree with the barrister. But again, I think the viewer, the citizens of Edo State should be happy because a lot of things have been tested now in the court of law. And I think that the other faction was also very optimistic because they felt that if the president can lie on his affidavits, can perjure the courts, and can do and undo and buy the judiciary, that possible, they can also force Obaseki to issue a proclamation letter. But thank God that Obaseki won that. Thank God, I'm happy for him. You know why I'm happy for him? I'm happy that it validates me to ask my question I've been asking. For example, I took Obaseki to court now to explain how he borrowed 100 billion. It's a matter of different day, okay? And also, too, when Obaseki was the economy team manager to Shomole in his administration, he has a firm, and his firm was a consultant consulting on behalf of the government, and he got over #1 billion, which is very, very wrong, and I will let the lawyer to address that issue.
Well, you have to prove it first.
Of course, I have to. Listen,
yes, but
I can't come to national TV. You know better than that. But I think friend for life. You know that I can't come here and say what I don't know.
I think we should look at the issues on the ground.
The issues on the ground.
Yes, as it pertains to the EDHA proclamation.
You know that the lawyer have said that.
Because again, you also made mention of the president, and I will say that you didn't mention the name of the president. So I leave you off that one because you didn't mention the name of the president. Because I understand
can
that.
I say something, please?
Yes.
I'm not as smart as you, okay? So I don't lose my train of thought. What I'm trying to tell you is that he said that he's a lawyer, that in law, you don't rely on truth. You rely on facts. You rely on technicalities, and that's what happened to us.
That's not what I said.
Well, you said that the fact is that. You said the fact
is an issue of fact,
yes, okay,
which must be proved.
Of course.
Yes.
It's an issue of fact which must be proved. And then the truth is there, sometimes we can.
No, the truth is always relative.
It's relative, right? That's correct. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that we are happy that we are trying. And also said, I agree one thing is that a precedent has been set. And by law, you're supposed to follow precedent. So I don't know what the other side were thinking about and saying that the government must issue second a proclamation letter. But I'm objective. I'm not for APC, I'm not for PDP, I'm not for Obaseki, I'm not for Oshomole. I am for the truth. And I think
PDP is not involved in this. It's purely a party issue. It's purely a party issue.
The citizens have suffered enough. And it has clearly defined it, that if you are not there to represent them, after 100 days, your seat will be vacant. And I'm saying to my friends who are duly elected by his people, that I am going to the court myself to make sure that I challenge them, they should vacate and say. So if they know what is good for them. Okay, you are going to the court yourself? Of course. If they know what is good for them, they should come and let them be sworn in duly. And if they want to overthrow or the speaker, or even if they want to impeach the governor, they have the right to do whatever they want to do. Because we have a significant thing that can even call for impeachment. But they are being shy and being relying on their father in Abuja. Let's be realistic.
Significant thing that can even
call for impeachment. When you have a job being exported, given to some Lagosian and Delta people, and the roles are living, it's not time because I'm not APC member. Those are impeachable offenses.
Okay, well, he will react to all of this, Greg Okiogwa, because we'll look at this, like we did say earlier, that this is becoming, some see it as being more political than it's being legal. Now, there's this impression, because very soon, the gubernatorial race in Edo State is hotting up. And by next year, to be precise, will be having this. Don't you see this as bringing about ripples that could endanger the smooth transition of the governor to a second term?
No, I don't see it as being unusual, because there must always be ripples. It's politics after all. There must always be contending opinions and contending positions. But before I go into that, I wanted to just quickly emphasize what he was talking about, recall. There's a difference between recall and the vacation of seats.
Yeah.
The Constitution does not ask us to now recall those members. What the law states is that if they have absented themselves without a just cause, and the courts have already ruled that there is no justice in their cause, so their cause is not just, we don't even have to recall them.
But they have the right to appeal it.
No. There's no recall. There's no recall. Even if you appeal, until that appeal has been heard, until that judgment has been set aside, that judgment stands. They don't have a just cause as it is now. After 60 days, we don't even have to do anything. Their seats are automatically vacated by the Constitution.
Did you say after 60 days?
Yes, it's 60 days out of 180 days minimum. And what we need to do then will be to, at the very most, get an order of mandamus to compel INEC. To compel INEC. We don't, because it's not even the Speaker doesn't even have the power at that time. The Constitution has already declared their seats vacant. It will be INEC to conduct elections in those constituencies. That's what we're aiming for, and that's what we're going to do. Because you see, in this instance, you're talking about politics. It's a political matter. It's a family matter. PDP,
irrespective of the fact that the case is still in court.
Well, like I said to you,
I think we still need to understand that expressly.
See, like I said to you, and as the barrister has pointed out to you, until that judgment is set aside, it has already been settled. So whether you are saying it is still in court, by whose standards? There's already a judgment, and that judgment is what will stand, and that is what we're going to use as a standard.
Let's look at the way forward, how it could affect the second term bid.
What is going to affect the second term bid? We're going to have primaries, and the primaries are in three different ways. You have direct primaries, indirect primaries, and you have consensus. And the governor and his electability does not necessarily depend on the party. It depends on the people, the electorate. Do the electorate find the governor electable for a second term? Do they think what he has done is worthy of being, re-elected?
But he needs to get a ticket from the party. And we're looking at the National Working Committee and the role they're also playing.
You see, which just brings us to a very beautiful point. Here we are asking for true federalism. Here we are asking for what you call restructuring of the federation. It follows that if we are restructuring the federal government, we must also follow that process of restructuring and true federalism within the political parties. The NWC cannot tell the State Working Committee what to do. The State Working Committee is the operative organ, the highest operative organ of the party in Edo State. Now,
that means the State Working Committee will be set for a match when it gets to that point?
No, why do you think that there's going to be a conflict between the National Working Committee and the State Working Committee? I do not see that there's going to be a clash. Okay. I do not see, like my brother, the great ultimate equal, says, that there's an Oshomole faction and there's an Obaseki faction. There's no such thing in APC. It is just one APC party.
Love you. We don't have factions.
No, we don't have factions, but we have different tendencies. We have tendencies. We have the conservative tendency, right, which wants to hold power and the status quo, and you have a progressive tendency, which wants to break barriers and do things slightly different and in a more radical and more revolutionary way and in a quicker way. So and then you have the people who want to hold on to power and hold on to the sources, because the reason they want to hold on to power is because power is the access to resources. You understand? So that's why you see that they're doing what they're doing. The House of Assembly, the most important function of the House of Assembly is appropriation. You understand? So when you see somebody want to hold on to the control of the House of Assembly, you know that he wants to control appropriation. Okay. Which now takes me back to 2010, when we were working under Comrade Adams Oshomole. And he said that his budget, his 2010 budget, that Zakawanu Garuba, who was the speaker at that time, was a PDP man. He took the budget to Abuja to go and see Chief Tony Aneni, who was minister. And they summoned the governor, who was Adams Oshomole, to Abuja. And in front of Chief Tony Aneni and Zakawanu Garuba and some other PDP people, commissioners in the Oshomole's government, they started to strike off different items. And Oshomole said he was humiliated as the governor, having to sit there and redefend his budget before Chief Tony Aneni. He came back to Benin and said, no to godfatherism. That's the end. Now, that happened in 2010.
And that's his stance.
and it still stands till today.
But is there
that
still
nobody is going
now?
to... No, pardon?
Is there still go for that reason now?
No, there isn't. Go ahead. There might be an attempt to be.
Okay.
You might attempt it, but it can never work. Okay. Never, never, never in Edo State will it ever work again. And that's why I'm saying that when you see people struggling to control the House of Assembly, what they're actually struggling for is the power to control appropriation of funds in Edo State.
Okay.
And that's what we're fighting. Nobody but the people of Edo State and the members of the House of Assembly as duly elected and the governor as duly elected will ever have power of appropriation over our commonwealth and our resources.
Okay, thank you. Bringing this to a conclusion, what do you say as a custodian of the law in the direction of settling this seemingly feud?
First, I want to say that the issue of the members-elect, if you go to court to say their seat should be declared vacant, their first defense will be, oh, we are on appeal. But like I said,
their first defense will be on,
yes,
the matter,
appeal. Even though there is a judgment,
does that
the law is that once there is an appeal against the judgment, you cannot take benefit of that judgment. Okay. Because there is still the possibility that the Superior Court can set aside that judgment. Okay. And so if you now take steps relying on that judgment, which maybe will be set aside, then the whole thing crumbles. So their first answer to that is, oh, we feel that the inauguration is not proper. Oh, even as we speak today, they are contending that there is no House of Assembly in Edo State. Personally, I think they are wrong. But what I want to advise is this. There is nothing stopping them from going to the House now and getting inaugurated. I ask one very simple question. They themselves as members-elect, their constituency, Edo State, what will they lose if they get inaugurated today? Absolutely nothing. But if they go there and they get inaugurated, forget your personal opinion that, oh, even the proclamation, the inauguration was wrong. You are fighting that one in court. If you succeed in court, you still will not have lost anything by being there. But if you do not go and you fail in court at the end of the day, you take this matter to the Supreme Court says, oh, proclamation stands, inauguration valid.
Then the recall will be possible.
The issue of recall is not there, but their seat is vacant by operation of law.
It has nothing to do with recall.
Because the law says, so yes, that's the situation, that's the danger. You are taking a gamble to say, oh, we feel we are right. Oh, the proclamation was wrong, the inauguration was wrong, there's no House of Assembly. If you go there, even though you believe that there is no House of Assembly, you go there now, you contribute your quota to whatever is going on, and because at the end of the day says, oh, the proclamation was wrong, there's no House of Assembly, good for you. You would not have lost anything.
So it's more risky to allow the time to elapse.
Exactly. So by the time you now say, oh, we are right, we believe we are right, and the court comes out at the end of the day to say, no, everything that was done is valid, substantially valid in law. Where do you stand? And then what will be the consequences and repercussion to the people who have trusted you with their mandate?
So you admonish.
So my advice, let the members elect
do the right thing.
Go to the House. If, for instance, they go there now, and we hear that the police stops them from coming, or the speaker says, no, I will inaugurate you, or the people of Edo State will rise in their defense. But when you stay away on your own motion, without anybody stopping or preventing you from coming, and at the end of the day, the issues which have been submitted to the court, first, the Federal High Court that has given this judgment now has given a signal that there is a possibility that this thing is right and
it will go in that direction.
It will go in that direction. So you must now take your steps.
Okay.
So for me, I advise they go to the House, get inaugurated. If it is about the speakership, the procedure for the removal of the speaker is clear and it's simple. If you say you have the majority and you have what it takes, go there and remove him.
Okay.
The people of Edo State, provided it is done in accordance with the law, nobody is going to raise any issue about that.
Okay, so have a point home.
You know why I laughed?
Yes.
I laughed because I would recommend him to be, a law lecturer. You know, people who are precise and were just objective. You know, I appreciate him very well. Because whatever I said, I agree with him.
He made good points.
I mean, he makes an excellent point. Okay. What are they going to lose? They have nothing to lose. They can be in the House and still fight their cause. Stop punishing those who voted for you, who elected you to office.
Absolutely.
Go there. We did not agree the gangsterism, how some people were picked with underwear and all that. We do not agree. We're watching. Okay.
Beyond all of this, and as we gradually get close,
yes. Come to the point, you know, and then the issue of Obaseki getting second ticket or not, it depends on the people, as Greg has rightly said. Okay. You also know recently, and it's been there in the social media, that a former governor...
It doesn't rest on the powers of the National Working Committee.
I'm not talking about that. And Amoshomole came out with what concerned me most, that the specialist hospital, that he did 75% of that hospital.
Yeah, but we may not have the opportunity to do this now.
Yes.
You should just drive from your point.
That's my whole point, please. To ask Obaseki, why is that hospital not functioning? Why is Obaseki keeping me to that? Okay, it means that he has no respect for the people who duly.
Okay, but that's a different case entirely as to what we are discussing.
About mismanagement of the people.
No. Because we are looking at the EDHA proclamation controversy.
He might have the idea of being a technocrat. Okay. But he doesn't have the idea to manage people. Okay. You see, human resources is very important.
You see,
so what happened to the
yes. I take that as a round of. See, words are empty. What you need to do is to watch the actions.
Okay.
Why should the governor respond to every hostile attack?
It's not hostile.
Hold on.
You said
something, let him react, please.
Rather than the governor starts talking to you in words, why don't you wait and see his actions? Why don't you see what happens with the hospital? Why don't you find out, first of all, what's happening with the hospital? If you had seen on social media yesterday, there was a short documentary with all the equipment and everything in the hospital. We have said this time after time that this hospital was already commissioned by...
But why is no response?
Thank you. Your final words on this, because that's outside what we are discussing. Donald Trump
he doesn't have to talk.
Thank you.
Working governor.
What is it
talking governor?
It is similar.
I think we quit. Because if we are not able to manage this situation,
average wage.
Well, that's much we can take. Thank you very much. Thank you, Prince Greg, for coming, and thank you, Eddie Asenogwa.
I still love you.
And of course, thank you, Patrick Iholo, for coming. Well, they say all that starts well must end well, and this is where we call it a wrap on the discussion segment. It's still TMI.